Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It is May 18th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. An interesting day. We really had a two-legged down day. We had this leg here, and then we had the correction here, and then a second leg down. We actually went a little further than that. You can see here's the close, the red line, and we've continued lower even after the new session is opened here. But pretty big move down. The early leg, we had the real steep, which we had a break and a new low. But a lot of times on those real steep ones, you'll see it flatten out. Same thing on the up, it'll be real strong to the upside, and then it'll kind of fall over into a flatter channel. And that's what we had here. And then we had a break of that. And what looked like was just going to be a range day, because we spent most of the day in this blue range period here, or range high and low here, before we finally broke lower and headed on down for another measured leg, actually a little more than a measured leg. So early on this morning, we had two measured legs down. There was that first leg, and then you got a little two-legged correction right here in the middle, and you can see that was the measured leg down. We went a little further than that too before we bounced out of there. And so really, once we reversed here, you would assume that we'd at least try for a retest of the lows. But it took a long time before that came down, and by the time it came, we just moved on down for a second leg after this correction here. So we got the first leg, which consists of all this move, and then another leg from here. And again, you can see we bounced early right there at that measured move, but by this time, things were selling off so strongly, they just continued lower. So relatively strong sell-off here late in the afternoon, which will that continue into tomorrow? We'll have to see. So we continue to technically on the daily chart. Here's a look at the daily chart. And technically on this chart, we have been in this range. We had a failed breakout the top, failed breakout the low, and now we appear to be making a second leg down. So could this market be rolling over into a bear market? It's way too early to tell. Just looking at this daily chart, we are still in an uptrend. You can clearly see that. We were way overbought here, which we've pretty much relieved that overbought condition when we bounced down here until the lower purple band here. And now we're right back in the middle again, bouncing off the center band. So will we make another leg down? And then that be the center pattern for more to the upside, or are we going to roll on over and head down? We may stay in this range. We could bounce back up here again. We'll just have to see. But looking at this, it looks like we're going to attempt a second leg down on the daily chart. So we'll just have to see what happens. Normally in the past, I haven't shown the daily charts too much because people tend to start looking at them and getting confused. And there's nothing wrong with looking at the daily chart to kind of get some ideas. But when you start in the morning, only use the price action from today's chart. The only time we want to look over in tomorrow's chart is when we're making new lows, like right down here, and there's no support to look back to for today. So then you move across and you can see, yeah, we had support all along here yesterday, it looks like. So that's where we're finding support again today. Actually, it looks like we went a little lower today. Not by much, but we did go a little lower. Oh, actually, I take that back. I didn't go all the way down. We went all the way down to this last support resistance area right in here. And the next support's looks like it's going to be down here around 40.85 or so. We're not far from that. So anyway, that's normally when I look at previous days. And you can go to the daily chart to look for that stuff too. But when you're using the days, stick to your, look to this chart for most of your information, and only go to the other chart is if we're making a new high and you need to find resistance over here, or if you're making a new low and you need to find previous resistance. Other than that, we stick to the price action on today's chart. I had somebody send me a chart this morning. This is really what prompted me to bring this up, was they sent me their chart, and they were expecting the day to be up, but they were looking at something from way down here working up, and they didn't quite read it right either. But that was leading them to think today would be up. And when they were wrong, they were like, what prompted me to think it was a down day? Well, I'm just looking at today, and this is a down day. We were, even once we bounced up in here, you got to figure we're still going to try to make a new test to the low. So just keep that in mind. Don't get too carried away. But you can see the day clearly 2 legs down. Let's back out. We'll go through the trades. You had to be patient this morning too, because even though it was a downtrend, at least on my chart, there weren't any setups. 7 o'clock came just as we're making this little 2-legged correction here. And there's a second entry short right here in this strong downtrend, but you can't use that signal bar, so you can't take that trade. Your lower high is way down here at the low end, so you can't enter there. Then we get another second entry short right here, but again, the signal bar is horrible, and you don't get a lower high or anything again until way down here where it's time to bounce. So you just had to kind of sit tight. It was almost 9 o'clock before we got our first trade today. So a little frustrating actually, but once we got into this secondary channel, we got a few trades in here, actually a couple of nice ones. But you had to be patient this morning. So again, there's a second entry short right here, but again, the signal bar is no good. So if you had a good signal bar on any of these second entries, by all means, you could have taken them. But on my chart, they're just not very good setups. So we get a lower high right here. Again, you'd still be expecting prices maybe to go higher, so you can't really go short there, although I would have drawn that trend line there, and this does kind of confirm it, but that signal bar just keeps you from going anywhere. And then you get another little lower high right here, but I don't trust this entry right here simply because it's just inside. It is a lower high. If you took this, you would have had a loser. But when it tried to go higher again and turned down right off that trend line and gave you this big bearish bar, I think it's worth risking now, because now you've got a triple test, 3 lower highs as well. So it's like a triple test of the trend line and that big bearish bar. I think you want to go short right there. There's a lower high here, but again, the signal bar is horrible. Then you work up and you get a first entry, and then now you get another second entry with a nice signal bar. And so there's another chance to go short. And then there's a failed second entry long right here. I like this trade. It's a little close to this support, but we're in a downtrend. And what you might do is let this break lower and drop a limit order, maybe a couple of ticks better, just to get a little better entry before that low. Wouldn't have mattered. It's a great trade anyway, and it is in a downtrend, and we're still making lower highs and lower lows all the way down through here. It's obvious this flatter channel is in play. So I made that one green for that reason. You want to be concerned about that low right there. It's a little close to just outright market red, but with a trap, it's probably going to go on through anyway. So I marked it green. Then of course, now we break lower. Then you get a first entry, you push through here, you get a second entry, and you're back inside this support. So maybe this channel or maybe this range is going to be in play. It's just hard to know yet. I marked this one green because it does break lower. Actually, it doesn't break lower. It just turns up here and goes. And if it would have broke higher right here, maybe. But when you get those 3 bars, that's a really risky trade. Actually, you go long right here. I'm sorry. I've got the wrong one marked. So if you didn't go long there, even though these have equal lows, you really wouldn't want to go long way up here because of these matching highs. If you didn't enter here, you just don't want to enter. So, and the only reason I like this one is because it's a failure and you're going long back inside the range, and you do have plenty of room back up to this downtrend channel. Plus, on the steep channel, you've had a break and more than a measured move down, so you might get a reversal here. So unless you got room to get out before getting back up to here on this failure, then you don't want to take this trade. If you get in down here, you got plenty of room back to the highs, back to the trend line, I should say, and a little more room back to the highs. Here you're going long right into the highs. So you could only use this signal bar, and even then it's a little bit aggressive. I'd like for this to bounce off the upper side of the trend line. So, and again too, if you don't enter here by the time this this closes, now you got 3 bars and you got that no body bar that makes that congestion. And you can see the next bar doesn't go anywhere, the next bar doesn't go anywhere, and that's why, because it's congestion. It ends up breaking on higher and going up, but you just don't want to risk that. So I think you're getting too far away from the EMA to enter anywhere up here. There's a high or low here right off the trend line, but it's just a first just a high or low basically, but it's right at the highs and you don't have any room. And I just think it's too late. It's right in the middle of what was the possible range. So moves up, turns down right where you think it might, right in the same area. And you get a first entry, second entry. There's a second entry long right here. That's the first break of this channel. And that's been a pretty good move with this failed break lower. So there's a good chance we're going to at least retest the highs here, and we could even continue higher. We could flatten out and make a flatter trend of some type. But I like this trade, second entry long, and of course you do run up and make the new high, and then you just drop down and go into this, and you just stay out of that. There's no reason to enter that stuff. There is a second entry long here, but notice 1, 2, 3, 4 bars stacked up. This one's got the no body or small body doji. You don't want to go long right there. Not into these highs where you get strong resistance on congestion and just a weak second entry. So, and by the time anything else sets up, we're just going sideways. There's no way to enter any short or long there. You can see the lows getting higher. That's a good clue that we're probably going to go lower. But you really need a breakout pullback short, and you just don't get it. So come down here, you get a first entry, and then finally you get a second entry short here, and again you got a bullish signal bar, and this is just an inside bar, so you can't really enter there. But then you get this lower high, and again it's close to the lows here, and what looks to be the lows of the support. It's still, at this point, it's still hard to know exactly where those lows are, but you're getting most of your touches right along this level here. And we already bounced there as well. So you just got to be real careful going short right here. The way I'd play this, I'd let it break lower and I'd drop a limit order in, making sure I had enough room to get out here. And if it feels you, great. And if it doesn't, then skip that trade, because you see it doesn't. It would have worked either way, but you just can't risk that. We actually get a reversal here, but that's just congestion. We're below the EMA. You can't enter long there. We come back up. Again, no short really. You might have looked at this as a failure, but we should be headed back to the high, and that's just kind of going sideways congestion there. So I don't think you want to enter there either. And then we do make the new high, and we don't even get back to the highs here. Then you make a lower high. And I like that one for a short. And if you didn't enter there, a few minutes later you get the failed second entry long, and I definitely like that one. And then we actually push back through here, and then you get a first entry, second entry, and that's a big bearish bar. You are going short at the lows, but it's right off the EMA. It's looking like we're probably going to go lower here. At the very least, you should see another leg down, hopefully, which puts you down to right here. But you can see prices just keep going right on through that. And pretty soon it's clear there's a two-tier channel working lower here. And notice you get a first entry, and then you get a second entry short right here. The entry, you could wait and go short down here. Really, I like entering this one when it breaks higher and then below the one tick below the on the engulfing bar. In other words, when it breaks higher first, put your sell stop there. And if it goes on through, take it. Entering down here, you're ending at the very low of the move, and we're still way away from the EMA, which is why I would probably mark this green anyway. But the fact you're going short right into the lows makes it even more suspect. But it's a second entry short, and it's a strong sell-off. So, and if we're going to get the big picture measured move, we still got a long way down to go, and we're still in this channel. So you may take that one. It's, I mark it green, but I'm not crazy about entering anything that far away from the EMA. unless it's a real strong trend, which obviously that is, and it is off the key entry point as well. So we do bounce here. You get your first close. You actually get a close and new low there. And there's a reversal here, but it's only a first entry short. You know, it is coming off that key entry point. I just think it's too risky to go long yet. And that takes you into 2 o'clock. So not a lot of trades today, but the ones that were here, they're pretty straightforward setups. And it's just one of those days where you got to be patient. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Really, there's only 6 red or blue trades today. It didn't seem like you had to wait that long, but I guess you did. I mean, it's obvious you don't enter in here and you just kind of sit and, you know, you're not really watching it as closely when it's doing that. Just ignore that stuff. If you try to enter in that, the odds are you're going to get chopped to pieces. So when you start to see those little tight, real tight congestion ranges like that, just skip that stuff. And so that's from really 9:30 to that's over an hour right there. I don't know what was going on there. I think a lot of people were expecting a reversal, but the selling was just too strong right there, and boom, eventually we're headed lower. I mean, it's obvious there's some selling going on. Look at that selling, how strong that selling is right there. And that's a pretty strong move there. And of course, I measured those first 2, but I would measure this whole thing here. Of course, this is way after 2 o'clock, but you still want to be aware of it. And you can see that's pretty much where we went to. Again, with it being such a strong sell-off, we overshot that slightly, but that was a great target based on this first leg down. So use those measured legs to kind of give you, you know, you don't want to trade off that. I see people send me trades based on measured moves. I don't know that I would trade off of them, but you know, it just gives you a little more information to know if there's more room left in the move, where the target will be. It's more for that than it is for reversals. Now, of course, if you get a measured move right here and you've had a break and 2 legs down to meet that point, and then you get a nice reversal that looks strong, yes, pay attention to that, but don't try to pick bottoms down here based on a measured move, because you see right here, this would have looked like a great place to pick a bottom, and they just kept going. And even right here would have thought, hey, this would be a great place to pick a bottom. And it did end up bottoming, but it might have stopped you out before and it didn't go very far up before it turned back down again. So don't necessarily use these for reversal points. You're using them to find targets for if you do get short and where to expect the reversal to set up at. If you use it in that fashion, you're on the right track. If you're using it to try to trade off of by finding reversals, you need to be real careful. You need to be very good and a good chart reader to be trying to do that. So I really caution people against that. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.